Ayan na. Okay na yan. Wait, ano yung pag-usapan na natin yun? Ano, share screen ko po ba or hindi na?
Yeah, you have to share screen so that we would know.
Review din tayo ng mga past ads pala. O sige.
Okay.
Ulitin ko nga muna dito sa may part dito. Yeah.
My story is my story. Lindsey Graham's story is just comical.
Donald Trump, I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. His policies are really bad for the country. He's not fit to be president of the United States.
He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. No, I don't think he's a xenophobic, race-baiting, religious bigot. I like the president. I am like the happiest dude in America right now. I am all in. Keep it up, Donald. I'm sure you're watching. He deserves the Nobel Peace Prize and then some.
Here's a guy who will say anything to stay in office. Lindsey Graham can't lead us in any direction because he traded his moral compass for petty political gain. Lindsey Graham, he's forgotten about the people he represents. You. I want to move us, all of us, in the right direction. When a rural hospital closes in your community, it becomes a situation of life and death. As your senator, I will work to fix it. I won't care who you voted for, what education you've gotten, what career you have. I remember a time when senators helped the people they represented. I want to bring the spirit of helping back. And that's why I am running for the United States Senate. I've been given a lot in life, but as we learned in church, to whom much is given, much is expected. So here's my pledge. If you live in South Carolina, I want to work for you. When you send me to fight for you in Washington, I'll never forget that my only superpower is your trust. I learned a long time ago, what you say matters, and character counts. I may not be a superhero, but I am a South Carolinian, and I'm ready to fight for a better future for our state and our country.
And okay then.
Yeah, I think I have to comment, right? First of all, I love the messaging. I love how he stated that he's gonna be a senator for every person in the state, and that's what Democrats lack. Sorry, Democrats lack the enthusiasm to serve other people that disagree with them, or Democrats hate the diversity of beliefs, and I think this is not a pandering to the Southerner voter, but rather it's about trying to make sure that their services, or they get the services that they deserve. I think that's important to notice in this particular ad, right? And it's able to mix together the attacks that you need, or the criticisms that you need to impart to the voter. At the same time, you're also presenting yourself as a stronger alternative, that you're there to listen, you're there to serve, you're not forgetting your constituents, which I think the opposition here in the Philippines fails to do. And that this is what I think is a good campaign ad. Although, of course, in terms of strategy in the ground, of course, there's going to be problems, because in the United States, there are areas that are heavily Republican, and there are areas that you can swing to your side. So, however, the ad is effective in making sure that you get the right people at your side, you get enough voters to rally for you. And I think when this ad is looked back, this could be a good strategy for Southern Democrats running. Like, you should project yourself as a person that's going to be the senator for all people, for the rural folks, urban folks, which will help bolster numbers that even the strongest voter fraud legislation can't be able to handle. So we have to watch more of the videos or the ads of the South for Democrats. No,
Okay, okay naman.
I want to do the same for Northern Republicans, because since we are focusing on United States and the polarity that they have, we want to show you, or we want to know how they get the people to vote for them.
Hmm. Though it was really okay, or it was really great. Jamie's ad. The problem is they saw him kasi na just raising money, tons and tons of money for his ads, for his campaign expenditures, and I think tapos yung background niya pa being a corporate lawyer, and I guess Graham parang spin it into a narrative na he's more corporate than me type of argument probably, which is kind of true. And yeah, tapos ano pa bang naging problem ni Jamie Harrison? The other problem is that he was really labeled as Schumer's candidate. Yung parang ganun. Those types of kalimutan ko yung word na yun. Yung stereotypical, yung ganun. Ito kay Marquita Bradshaw. So, nanap yung nanap yung ad niya. Wala yung, hindi ko makita yung ad niya. No, wait lang. Sino po? Wag na, yung kay ano na muna, yung kay, let's go to Gary Chambers na lang. Ulit, na ad. Wait. Yung the full extent on this first ad. There it is.
This year has been tough, with more highs and lows than we can count. But there you are, working hard to lift your family, to make ends meet, to build a better future for your children. It's easy in these tough times to feel outnumbered and all alone, and to wonder who is really looking out for you. In a state that ranks in the bottom 5 for almost everything, 46th in healthcare, 47th in infrastructure and the economy, 48th in education and opportunity, 49th in the environment, and 50th in crime. Louisiana is long overdue for a new vision and
I really
stronger
do feel
leadership.
bad for Louisiana.
When I take inventory of who we are as a people, I recognize there are more of us working long hours in underpaid jobs, sacrificing away from our families. There are more of us struggling to make ends meet, traveling on crumbling roads and bridges in big cities and small towns, in street traffic, while foot traffic to our small businesses dwindles. There are too many of us having to choose between buying our medicines and paying a utility bill, and facing insurmountable student loan debt. And some of us even dying from the pollution of chemical plants in our communities. It's time for real change in Louisiana. Growing up in Louisiana to a school teacher and a janitor, I learned the power of family and community from a working class family, and built a work ethic that taught me that no matter what we were up against, we could face it together. Because we are more than the obstacles ahead of us, more than the challenges we face. And when it comes to the forces that would seek to hold us down, we can never forget that there are more of us. We can make a change in Louisiana because there are more of us who are willing to help our neighbors and lift our communities. There are more of us who want to see our children thrive and have a fair shot at a bright future and prosperous life right here in this state. My work began long before a school board meeting that went viral. But since then, I've had the privilege and the opportunity to serve communities all across this state. And one thing I know for sure is what we need is more of us to represent what Louisiana truly is made of. More ordinary, working class folks like you and I with real lived experience that understand our state and our plight. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate. And I'm asking you to join me on this journey to strategize, organize, and mobilize Louisiana like never before. And remember, there's more of us. I'll see you at work.
So yeah, I think I have to comment also.
Oh, sure, of course. Review nga ito eh.
the I think what we need to remember is there's lack of depth with when it comes to the issue of poverty. There's always a lack of depth with what you're going to do because it's easy to
Mm.
stimulate emotions. It's easy to say that I've been there, I've felt what you felt. So it's really hard once you legislate something about it because
Oo.
it's really different when you are in the micro level of things, and then it's also different when you see it in a general standing, like in a general situation, like in the macro level. It's easy to promote a plan to alleviate poverty, but in the micro level it's hard because how do you engage the people to get lifted out of poverty? That has been always been the question.
Oo.
So you can't always just give them, well, I don't want to sound conservative too much, but you can't always just give them welfare because at the end of the day, these
Oo.
people will have limited potential and they're not gonna they're not going to be successful in life though. It is important, of course, that you give what they need, but it has to be in the long term. And
Mm.
in a state like Louisiana, which has one of the highest poverty rates, not only in the
Mm.
deep south but also in in the U.S.
Mm.
There has to be people that can explain the need to have a responsible financial growth, right?
Mm.
The need of the state to invest in innovative technologies and do not rely heavily on agriculture. However, I
Oo.
do praise the previous video we've watched before recording about the need to really heal racial tensions because and also the need to reinforce racial justice because that has been an issue for most of the southern states
Oo.
and
Yes.
especially in the state wherein there are parishes that really impose a higher penalty for African Americans than your average rural white southerner. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that needs to be done if you're running in
Yes.
Louisiana.
Mm.
Um, I think kailangan, in a way, you also need to understand the social environment of Louisiana. You can run
Mm.
by espousing poverty, but at the same time, you should really broaden your coalition by adding into Catholics, adding into social conservatives, those who own guns, those who
Oo.
are um, or leaning towards the military. So I think
Mm.
that's what the Democrats need in
And the
all of the
best coalition they can get.
yeah, and they should really run it like Bell Edwards because Bell Edwards really can win it in
Yeah.
a state like Louisiana.
Well,
Although of
not
course,
just Bell Edwards. Not just
mm,
Bell Edwards. Like si Bullock din.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, yun nga. So yun.
Yeah, another thing is talaga in the South, never say we wanna take your guns.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's part of the culture na talaga.
no, but pero I'm saying nga yan na don't say it na to take away people's guns because that would be a huge turn off for them.
Mm-mm,
Though,
exactly.
though when you say it naman to a point na we just wanna give you background tests and checks all that. It's kind of 50-50 for me, in my view. Like there would be 50% yes, 50% no. Because when they said they want because they're thinking sa Second Amendment that it's freedom, it's full freedom on using guns, which is kind of yeah, it is a vague thing to say sa Second Amendment, including sa First Amendment. Diba?
Yeah, I think for me, in all honesty, since I am a centrist, I do believe that there are issues that you can't really force in different areas of the United States, since we're just observing everything. You just
Yes.
can't force the legalization of marijuana in the South. You can't force gun control in the South. You can't force religion in the Northeast. You can't force liberal states to maintain tradition because
Yeah.
they don't want it anymore. And most of them are situated in universities that really talks about secular humanism to the point that people are being taught to decide for themselves on what to do in every aspect of life, So, I think uh, when you run in the South, it's not the best issue to stomp on. Uh,
Yeah.
Guns are not really a high. Let's just admit that yes,
Yes.
there needs to be more regulation.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be background checks, but you have
Yes.
to tone it down to the point that you should use your gift of gab to explain to people that we need to be protected, and you don't want your child or your parent or your friend being gunned down by a street and the person that gunned them down will just say, I felt gunning down people. So when you use that kind of rhetoric, people will understand you, because what is wrong with the rhetoric about gun control is that it's trying to establish a fact, and you can't do that when you are talking to people. You need to create a subjective example that we need gun control,
Gun control. Kahit
or
pa,
we need
though,
background checks. So ganun lang yun kasimple. Because this is what the progressives don't realize. The more you impose the more you impose facts to people, the more they will get alienated. The more they will try to doubt your intentions, because people are technically confident about what they do in their lives. And that is a natural impulse, right? And as far as I'm
yes.
concerned, the more you do it, the more the other side will portray you as out of touch, as elitist, even though those you may not be like that.
You may
You
not
may
be
not.
like that literally,
Mhm.
but you speak like it.
Yeah, yeah. If we combine it to Filipino wokeness, diba?
Oo.
The more you
Yan.
talk about someone, like for example,
Marcos. BBM.
yeah, the more you talk like that, the more you condemn it in a language that is very toxic, then you are not elevating the discussion. You're just trying to be like your opponent. You are going. You are what you call this. You're putting yourself in a tight spot, right? And they will just since they already know that pumatol ka, the more you will lose, because you cannot rationalize your disgust. You can't do that in life. You just can't do it. So what you need to do is to objectively look at what happened in the martial law period. No? Ganun din yan sa US. Like you have to objectify it, eh. Because once you objectify your arguments, it will be harder for them to even counter argue. No, like for example, the economy, right? If the free
Yeah.
market is really, if we believe in the statement, the freer the market, the freer the people, then objectively, why aren't a lot of Americans under the poverty line? And they
Yeah.
all buy their products. I mean, they all buy their needs, right? They all
Yeah.
buy their necessities, and yet they're still under the poverty line. And does that mean to say that it is their fault already?
Of course
I
not.
mean, no, let me finish first.
Right.
The more you say that, the more it invalidates your side, or in a way, we're not telling you to change your mind, but you do need to state that there needs to be reform, right? We're not asking for a total rebrand or a knee-jerk system that will replace the current system that we have. All we need to ask is we need to reform this thing, because the more you don't address their needs, the more they will, you know, the more they will be engaged with more extremist ideas. And that's the total truth about it, no? And that's very resonative, not only in the United States. I think it's also applicable here in our country. So, yun lang.
So when it, wait lang, balikan ko lang. When in terms of that, like, yeah, like yung pag lagi mong pinapang shove sa face din ng mga undecided voters that BBM is a criminal, all of that, like they're really getting turned off, diba? Like they're like natutukso na silang bumoto dun sa planong iboto siya dahil din sa sa propaganda na pinapakita ng mga ng mga loyalist supporters niya, diba? I mean, it's kind of the same. Like, you demonize, then napupunta sila, parang may mga kwentuhan dito.
Yep.
Nasa ganun. So,
I think
wait lang. So, yeah. And another thing po sa dito, ito yung problema din sa Pinas eh. We always wanna say, we always shout out at the top of our lungs na let's talk about policies for F's sakes. Okay? Pero hindi naman matigilan yung discussion to the person's personality.
Yeah.
Like, how can we, siguro ang tanong is how can we stop that? Pero ang tamang sagot nga naman doon, it begins to ourselves. Like, stop talking about na lang din yung personality mismo ng tao and just focus on the policies that they're campaigning on or trying to propose, diba?
So again, I think it has to do with the system that we have in the Philippines. Remember, no matter how ideological we can be, if we don't have the proper connections and we don't have the overspending excess, diba? Coming from illicit contributions, we're not going to attain victory because the system here in the Philippines is not totally reformed. That's why we, as a member of Centers Philippines, have been advocating for reform politics since we started in 2018. And the reason why we think that is the case is due to the fact that people tend to look at ano ba yung bakit si VP Lenny nagyayapak, o kaya bakit si BBM iniiwas niya yung isa niyang kamay pagka hinahawakan siya ng tao tapos idadahilan na meron siyang sugat or whatever. Now, regardless of what side you're on, that's very, very shallow. Okay, it's a very shallow conversation to even start when you're talking about what's going to be the policies of these people if they are to become the next president. No, that's why personality politics will dominate because the system is not allowing the real issues to be addressed.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that we should already leave behind the importance of personality. Of course, it's important, but
Important
you should
naman.
give you should give policies equal footing. Also, like foreign affairs, can you really say that we should be not neutral or non-aligned? Because in international politics, I've told you this so many times, there are certain things that you need to take aside because you are going to put your interest on the line. You're not putting your interest on the line if you remain neutral, right?
Yeah.
When you are picking a side, you have to make sure that the side you're on will give you the best benefits. Okay? Because once we go deep down into the specifics of intrusion of sovereignty, there's already a gray area that you're saying that how can you or how can we be able to cope up with defense, right? If
Yeah.
we are always looking at things cynically, diba? I mean, if you are a cynic, and ideologues often have cynicism all the time, no? How can you be able to balance your leverage if you're always cynical, diba? That's what's wrong with what we have, no? Parang to make it more simpler, those who are moderate, those who can balance everything, tends to be corrupted by the establishment, while those who are pure in intention and are ideological tends to be less grounded in politics or in pragmatics. That's why the left, the Philippine left and the Philippine right don't win, no? And they don't get enough votes, even though they are deserving of it, because they don't ground themselves in real politics, no? And this is not only in terms of foreign policy. This can be implemented in agriculture. This can be observed in social issues. This can be observed in education. No?
Sa lahat na.
Yeah, exactly. Yun nga yung yun nga yung nagiging dilemma, kaya
Parang, so you mean on the ground parang hindi active?
no, not
Ganon.
really. Hindi naman active. Hindi naman sa ganon. I think they're all active on the ground. I think they're doing well in that area. What I'm trying to say is when we impose the term realities on the ground, you have to talk about the demographics. You have to talk about qualitative interviews, right? You need to talk about open forums, no? Because all of those are more effective than just a simple debate. If we realize deep down that I've realized this many years ago, because I've often joined debates in the past. Debates aren't there to even give clarity to an issue. It's just trying to project two different sides, and the best side that has the best zingers would win. Right? I don't need to mention, diba nag-debate sa SMNI,
Yeah.
no? And they tried to debate over Marcos and the importance of remembering history, no? It didn't really delve into the root causes of why people are being apologists to Marcos, or why people hate Marcos. Why does the left hate Marcos? It's both sides have established facts, no? And they're just trying to argue. They don't make people learn, diba? Which is exploitative to personality politics. The more you will get your exposure, the more you will be known. So how do you balance that? I think you can balance that by imposing issue-based debates. Or for me, and I think this is an unpopular position, we should not even engage in a debate format anymore. Kasi ano lang yan padamihan lang naman ng sigaw yan.
Strawman,
In Tagalog.
strawman paramihan din na
Yeah.
strawman arguments.
Yeah, you're gonna get your strawman arguments. And ang masama pa nun, lahat yan may pinoprotektahang kulay. Are we really going to go
Totoo.
down to that kind of mess?
It's nuts.
I mean, I am sick and tired of it. And this is not only reflective of the last 30 years. This is reflective of the last 100 years, if you know what I mean, because people were divided early on, before we even got our full independence.
And before we realize now we are really divided.
Yeah. And since we were looking into different ads from politicians. Diyan pa lang malalaman mo na iba ang impact or iba yung messaging sa US compared to the Philippines. Which is
sa US mas mature pa.
Yeah.
Na tinatry din i-establish ng left dito sa Pilipinas. Pero as I said, they do shoot themselves over on their foot.
Yeah. Because
the same din sa progressive ng US. Well, I mean, pero hindi kasi, for me kasi hindi masyadong halata sa right because in my view po kasi, they're silent somewhat, like low-key lang sila. Low-key na lumalaki yung appeal sa kanila ng mga tao.
Yeah. Pero hindi din. I mean, in all honesty, this silent stuff that they're promoting is just the surface. Like, we can be nice, but we're going to use our surrogates to attack you. Like what's happening now. I mean, dahil ang daming pumunta sa rally ng isang kandidato, you will now impose that, they're going to create a coalition without any sufficient evidence. Because you need to have sufficient evidence. Hindi ibig sabihin may intel ka. You can already create the assumption, yes, they are going to create it. No? Otherwise, that would be fear-mongering. And that is not good when you're running for president. And I'm saying this because what we need in 2022 is solidarity. We cannot be like the United States. I would hate myself if we become the United States because number one, we are not like that. We have brotherhood in the Philippines. Totoo yan.
Yes.
Naalala ko araw, pagka nag-aabroad ang mga Pilipino, pinagtatanggol nila ang kapwa Pilipino nila in the discrimination, in the, all of those things. At tapos dito, malalaman nila sa bansa natin, nagpapatayan, nag-unfriendan because of politics.
Nagbabackstaban lang din tayo at the end.
Parang parang nakakapanghinayang lang. Parang sayang lang yung efforts nila to promote solidarity. So yun nga, I mean, they don't realize that how can you make the campaign a little bit more issue-centric rather than personal demons? Because all of them have one. All of them have weaknesses. All of them have shady deals. It's time to accept that. And because it's not their fault alone. It's systemic. Kaya nga lagi kong pinopoint out na kahit pagdebatihan pa ng mga dilaw at ng pula kung sino mas magaling at sino mas may kasalanan, di ba? Nothing will happen because it's part of the systemic dirt that we all live
At saka
under.
nangyari na At saka nangyari na yung mga bagay na hindi sana nangyari. Oo. At saka parehas lang silang may mga kasalanan
yun nga. Wala naman tayong magagawa doon. What I'm trying to say is
fucking holier than thou.
It's time to really bury it down. No?
Oo. Tama. Tapos na talaga.
Kasi parang, we should remember EDSA. I have nothing.
Yeah.
I hate yung parang sinasabi useless daw yan. Because I think it's just the first level of development when you restore institutions. But syempre, hindi natatapos yung doon. Hindi natatapos yung trabaho doon.
Oo.
Kasi it will come to the point that you just restored what was obliterated in the margin of people. No?
it
So
will come back to bite you in the ass if you don't
ayun nga. So
control
yun
the
nga. Oo. Kasi yun yung problem with the establishment of the country, no?
Mm-mm.
Ang problema naman sa mga ideologues ng Pilipinas is outrage. And outrage
Masyadong
doesn't
outrage.
solve anything. I
Mm.
mean, for example, ikaw may problema ka sa trabaho at minumura mo yung kaaway mo, pit siya. You have to be calculated in your movement. You have to make sure that your enemy is the one being destroyed, not you. Hindi yung sasacrifice mo yung sarili mo, no? Maikipagpatayan ka hanggang dulo. You are aiming for something, di ba? Yun yung mali nila. And ideologues, I am not scared, okay, in saying that, because what we are saying here is observational. This has nothing to do with what I think of them as people. No, when I think of you as a person, syempre we can be friends, we can be topas, we could be, buddies. But again, what we're observing here is the political mindset of people. We're not talking about what's your favorite movie, what's your favorite shoes. Diba? It's time to be frank about it. No? Even for us, no, we try to challenge ourselves. Are we really doing the best we could to help people, or are we stuck in the middle because we have so many dilemmas at masyado kaming natatakot of radicalism, to the point that what if the radicalism being shared is for the good, for the greater good? So we too, from the middle have ambiguities. But again, at least we are not idolatrous people, no? Which is more dangerous than anything that we have promoted over the years. Diba? Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against people who have certain ideas. Okay? I really don't care anymore,
Okay.
in all honesty. It's just that pag tayo ay nagsasalita ng sasalita tayo tungkol sa mga issue, we have to make sure that we make our arguments realistic and grounded in compassion. Hindi yung parang kaya lang tayo nagsasalita kasi apektado tayo. Ganun kasi ang Pilipinas.
Or parang may other wording pa dun na you're just saying the issues because parang naghahanap ka ng bagay na gusto mong maipaglaban.
Totoo yun.
Diba parang lahat naman ganun diba?
Yeah, we all know that that's natural. It's very natural. But it can be you can regulate it. You can use your self-control to make a better plan, a better opinion. Kasi ngayon, ang nangyayari, no? And I think this goes on all sides, no? It's all about respecting opinions. But again, an opinion can vary. There are opinions that are really worth of garbage. You throw it in the garbage because it doesn't make any sense. And as a political science student, you should know that you can't make garbage arguments, no? A garbage opinion. Diba? Yun yun nga yung pinost ko noon na I would have to recognize your opinion. I would not shoot down because you have a very bad opinion on healthcare or a bad opinion on same-sex marriage, no? But again, you have to look at the validity. If your argument is valid, accept the fact that you will be attacked. Hindi yung magpapa-victim ka tapos sasabihin mo your rights are infringed. You already have given your statement. Therefore, your rights are not infringed. Because they have the right to challenge your argument. Even though it is very informal, di ba? Kasi ang akala natin, kailangan sa formal debates lang nangyayari yan na you have to be challenged, you have to be questioned. Pero sa tao, ganun din yun.
Kahit sa normal
I
conversation.
want, since this is recorded, this has to be heard by a lot of political science students, no, of today, because today lumalala na yung political discourse. Unlike during our time, it was still a little bit more formal, a little bit more, let's just say, a little bit more limited to limited to small echo chambers. Pero ngayon kasi ang mga echo chambers parang out of pride na lang yan. Hindi na yan out of the need to discuss things. Yun yung difference ng echo chambers before. Like, people who know politics are the only ones talking about politics. So again, I'm gonna say a very unpopular opinion that siguro it's time that political analysts should be the ones talking about it. Because otherwise, no, you would just hate people you love just because they have a very
Different.
disingenuous opinion. Diba?
Oo.
Like for example,
Mm.
magagalit ka sa tatay mo kasi bumoto siya kay BBM, o kaya
Oo.
nagagalit ka sa kapatid mong babae kasi anong-ano siya kay Leni Robredo.
Mm.
No? You just let the experts handle it. No, I know that it may limit freedom of speech of certain people. It might be branded as undemocratic. But what's so undemocratic about making divisions for expertise or imposing expertise on very complicated issues like this one? No? Kasi ang dami-daming nagmamarunong no? O di syempre lahat.
Though kasi to be honest kasi like when it comes really sa election lang, tapos may mga after election news na scandals, doon nagpapaka-political yung mga tao din talaga .
Yep.
I don't wanna blame them for that. Like, hindi naman nila kasalanan na nadadali sila ng yung pagiging political pagdating lang sa election. Pero, yun yung dilemma, hindi ko ma-explain . Ayoko talagang i-thumb yung yung fingers ko doon sa ganong type of argument. Active lang naman kayo pagka election or kung ano mang nagiging scandal. It kind of sucks. No, diba?
Yeah. No, what I was trying to say was there's 1 week na lahat would be economists. And then 1 week they will be foreign policy.
Oo, nagets ko na.
Yeah. I have nothing against that.
Nakikisakay ka lang kumbaga.
Parang dinadaan sa inuman yung mga ganyang bagay. Remember, napaka-complicated yun. Hindi
Kasi
yan basta-basta pwede ka magsalita.
Kung ano lang kasi marinig nila sa balita yun . Well, I mean,
Yup.
ako, ganun din naman. Like, I am guilty of that.
Mm-mm. So yeah, I mean, yun nga yung dapat na matutunan ng ibang first year political science today or future political scientists, political analysts. You have to expect that every issue has to have multi perspectives, hindi lang isa.
Hindi lang isa.
Kasi otherwise, if lahat ay ganon at lahat ay black and white, then nothing will come out of it. In all honesty. Diba? Kasi
wala rin mapagtutunguhan.
Hindi, asan na ako? Wait lang medyo sumakit na naman yung ulo ko .
Okay.
So, ano nga ba yung sinasabi ko? Yeah, yun nga, medyo hindi talaga magiging effective in the long run yung mga ganong bagay. So nagiging yung mga shallow thoughts, nagiging factual siya sa tao. Yun yung napapansin ko also. No? Like in the US, like bakit may ano ba yung panonoodin natin?
Atong 2020 Senate campaign ad this week. Mamaya.
Sige. Hindi, tuloy muna natin, no? Asa na ako? yun nga, so parang may mga complex na bagay na hindi mo pwedeng ilagay sa SOCMED talaga. I understand now what my teachers told me, no? That books are more important than a social media post. Okay? Of course, we have to modernize and innovate into different mediums so that more people will come to get certain levels of knowledge, right? But medyo pumapangit pag SOCMED. Like for example, respect my opinion. That's a very complex idea in itself. Because yun nga, if your opinion is not valid and it's not grounded by facts, therefore, how would you expect someone to respect you? Diba?
Napaka-vague na kasi ng meaning ng opinion eh. Talagang,
Exactly.
kasi ako to be honest, nadali din naman ako noon na nililiteral kung pag opinion mo lang, opinion. Sige, so, parang yung sa opinion niya, like, napaghahaluan ko siya sa meaning ng point of view. Like, opinion mo yan, okay, di yan yung sa tingin mo, kung yan ang totoo sa tingin mo, okay, fine. Parang sumusurrender agad ako, to be honest eh. Kasi
Actually,
parang,
madali lang gawin yan. I think I agree with it that I would surrender, hindi na ako maikipagtalo dahil wala namang mangyayari. Tsaka bahala sila sa buhay.
so, imbis na sabihin
pero
imbis na sabihin na opinion, di ba dapat sinasabi, it's my point of view?
Yeah.
Imbis
I
na
think
opinion.
it's a better
Yan, may natutunan ako.
Oo. Sabi sa'yo eh, alam mo, dapat nga binabayaran mo.
So yeah,
joke lang.
So next time na sasabihin ko, in my point of view, or in my POV. Hindi na MIO. So, opinion pa rin talaga na may facts pa rin talaga siya sa dulo dapat.
Yeah. Kasi minsan, syempre nadadala tayo sa emotion. So, it's better that we say it point of view para hindi tayo mabastos. When you say kasi, that's my point of view, people will just immediately stop talking to you. No? Kasi magkakaroon sila ng dilemma na I'm not going to get anything from this person, so I would just rather move away. Diba?
So I respect your point of view.
Sa opinion kasi, may mga bagay na kailangang pinag-aaralan eh. Diba? You can have low-level opinions, like for example, maganda ba yung Ant-Man? No? Okay yun yung binagay ko.
Okay lang yun.
Diba? Low level opinion. But in a high level opinion, what do you think of Russia's actions on the Ukraine? Does that require some more educated viewpoint than watching your favorite movie? Because movies are made to entertain you. Politics is not made to entertain you.
It makes you to learn lesson the hard way.
No, not only that. It actually it will give you the idea that the world is complicated and there are a lot of things to consider in making a policy. Yun ang important dyan. No? So, kaya nga, yun nga. So, it's a better way to say, it's my perspective, it's my point of view, so respect me. Pero yung sasabihin natin respect my opinion, the person that will that you're responding to will be exacerbated in throwing facts. Kasi paano kung sinasabi mo ang kulay ng langit ay kulay green, no? Or the earth is flat. So,
which is not.
You expect me to respect your opinion? Diba?
Kung alam mo rin naman mismo na hindi talaga flat ang earth.
So kaya dahil lamang sa magandang ang mga conspiracy theories, maganda kasing following yan eh. No? I mean, I'm speaking in Tagalog because I want to normalize.
Okay lang po.
Kaya lumalakas yung conspiracy theories na may mga ginto, may gano'n. No? Alam ko
Kasi
marami
ine
talaga
ano eh,
magagalit sa atin sa mga pinagtatatanong.
na-energize nila yun eh.
Oo, 'di ba? Kahit na
Wait,
ilang beses mo pa i-fact check sila, it's
wala,
easy to believe
wala
in
silang pake.
fantasies. Oo. Like for example, may mga ano raw yun, mga reptilians that roam the earth, tapos yung Queen of England daw ay reptilian. So napakadaling paniwalaan nun.
Well,
Because
may
you
mga
don't need
ibang
to
conspiracy ako na paniwalaan talaga.
like for example, ano yun, ano ba yung conspiracy na
Wait,
pinaka-paborito ng mga tao?
wait, ako kaya muna, saglit lang. Saglit
Hmm.
lang ta. Sa conspiracy. Like, may pinakita kasi isa yung Netflix kasi may conspiracy show doon na
Mm-mm.
hindi kasi, di ba hindi kasi binomba ng Germany yung UK dati.
Mm.
I kind of believe yung reason na hindi sila binomba because may friendly connection si Hitler sa royal family. Yun yung isa sa mga pinapaniwalaan ko na conspiracy. Kaya kung bakit
Yeah.
hindi nabomba yung UK. Pero I don't know if totoo talaga yan or hindi. So yeah, in my point of view, parang kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yun nga yung that is what we have to avoid because we don't know. And even though of course there's this tendency for people to believe in things they don't see, is because we are totally let's just say this in a kinder word, we are really an idle organism, 'di ba? Kumbaga, there's still an inner juvenile in all of us that we will tend to believe fairy tales, no? Because we can say that, maybe it happened, maybe it's true, but at the end of the day, would we know? Because that's a puzzle of the mind. And as people of reason, we should not delve into that. We should be focusing on what is viable and what is presented in detail, hindi yung presented in mystery, no?
Hmm.
Kaya nga tayo naglalagay ng mga detectives to solve mysteries because we want to solve, not to project it as a mystery forever, 'di ba?
Oo.
Yun yung mali ng tao eh. Kaya maraming taong hindi nagkaaroon ng magandang buhay kasi sorry, sorry talaga.
Okay lang po
Kasi
yun.
gano'n ang mga
Kailangan natin magpakatotoo.
paniniwalang gano'n. Kaya nga
Oo.
hanggang YouTuber na lang. Hindi na, I mean, matatalino naman sila. Meron naman silang K. Pero dahil nga, they just stick to the mystery and they don't want to solve it. Di ba? Ganun yun eh.
Mm.
Same goes with outrage. So, galit na lang ng galit. Wala naman na-solve.
Lalo
Diba?
nang nag-add ng fuel to the fire.
Oo. Yeah, you add more fuel to the fire because you are imposing stupidity already. And that's something
I'm guilty by that. I'm guilty by association.
and
Disclose ko
that's
lang on the
something
record.
that
Disclose.
we should not really do. Like, 'di ba? I mean,
Wow.
I'm just saying this because I'm concerned with society today. And yeah, let's just watch this na lang muna.
Hindi, nagets naman natin yung ano na yun.
Off ko
Yung
lang muna yung
notions.
cam. Yeah, off ko lang muna yung cam.
Labels are powerful things. For 35 years, Mitch McConnell has used labels to reinforce old prejudices, to divide us, to maintain his grip on power. But we're more than a collection of labels. They're each unique, with their own experiences and struggles, our individual hopes and dreams.
If everyone looks at you like you're an animal, sometimes you think you are one.
My boyfriend is transgender, female to male. He feels scared.
There's no more smile farms. I mean, they're gone. And they'll never come back.
While we are all different in many ways, we are alike in so many more. It's what binds us together as Kentuckians. We are a commonwealth of 4.4 million people, each with a unique voice. We are a collective of men and women, rich and poor, gay and straight, young and old, rural and urban, black, brown, and white. We deserve a U.S. Senator who sees beyond the labels, who actually cares about us, who listens to us, who sees us and respects us as individuals. Mitch McConnell doesn't. He sees us as nothing more than a block of votes to be labeled, divided, and then manipulated. I've had many labels in my life, but now I have a new one. I'm Mike Breuer, and today I'm launching my campaign for U.S. Senate on behalf of every Kentuckian and every American to strip away the labels and strip Mitch McConnell of power. McConnell has refined the art of obstruction, and he's weaponized the filibuster to his own political purposes. And when it doesn't fit, he throws the rules and 200 years of tradition onto the ash heap of history. Democracy be damned. Mitch McConnell often refers to himself as the Grim Reaper, and the Senate as his personal political graveyard. And while this may have served his political interest, it hasn't served ours. It's time to retire Mitch McConnell and restore our democracy.
Yeah, tama na yan.
We start with a blank slate.
Let's go see na. Wait lang.
No more labels. To win, we must all come together and learn to listen to one another. I want your voice to be heard. Share your stories, your hopes and your dreams, your fears and your struggles. This campaign is going to be a long, hard fight, but it is a worthy cause because it is a fight for the soul of Kentucky, and it starts now.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Together, we'll retire Mitch McConnell and restore our democracy. Some might call that naive, but that's just another label.
Sayang. Another ad finished.
Yeah, I think we can end with this one. I think I love the way it's American ads love to present solidarity, unity, and other stuff. No, and and I feel certain authenticity with it, right? Because they already know that there are stereotypes and there are diversity of beliefs and origins of different people, which is very strange because in the Philippines, we're not necessarily divided by language. We have a national language, right? But technically,
medyo divided pa rin tayo sa language eh.
Yeah, but we have a national language. That's actually broadened. Kaya nga nakapunta ang mga settlers dito from Mindanao, from Visayas to find a better life because they were able to speak Filipino. So, of course, we still have regional languages. But I think that's more of the mother tongue rather than a collective code to communicate with one another. No? So I love how they're connecting the inability of their politicians to get things done and connecting it with what they need. No, so dito kasi it's easier said than done. That you for this, you're for that. Like lahat sila ganon yung tinatawag nating bilis kilos, yung tinatawag nating ayusin natin ang gobyerno, maayos ang buhay mo. All of those are just common things eh. Angat buhay lahat, yung bangon bukas muli. So I'm trying to point.
Labels are powerful things.
Oops,
35
sorry.
years,
Medyo nalag na ako eh.
to reinforce old prejudices, to divide us, to maintain his grip on power.
Kailangan tanggalin mo
We're
na.
more than a collection of labels.
Kailangan mo na tanggalin. Nasira tuloy yung ano natin. Nakaharang kasi.
Yeah.
Nanay, sige, tapusin na natin ito.
Tapusin na natin ito. So, I'm just gonna continue with what I've said. I'm firing in all cylinders because there is something lacking if we are comparing American ads to Filipino ads. And of course, people will attack us for this, but I really don't care anymore because I don't have.
At saka dapat talaga hindi nagre-revolve nga talaga sa personality na talaga.
Exactly. May kulang talaga. And that's I'm not doing this out of malevolence or out of malice just to attack them.
may genuine ano ka eh. He had a genuine reasoning po eh.
Yeah, I do have a genuine reason because I'm concerned. I am a voter.
Mm-mm.
We are
Mm.
voters here.
Yeah.
And when we do a comparative analysis of what's going on in the United States and here, no, you can see there's a difference on how
Tapos ang sasabihin nilang atake sa atin, eh di lumipat kayo, dun na kayo kung gusto niyo pala.
yeah.
No.
But my best response would be, why not? Maybe I
No.
make a better living in the United States than here.
Politically. Kasi
And
ako
you
nga,
would still be jealous of me and still be mad at me because doon na umikot yung mundo nyo, which is very bad, diba?
no
nga
problem.
yung-
No
ang
problem
daming
ako like ano. Like if may enough finance ako, then I'll live there.
Yeah.
Then tutuparin ko yung dream ko maging US Senator doon, tapos maging GSCC chair. Oh. Diba?
Yeah.
Then, sige, last sa answer, ano pa nga ba ulit? Yun na yun, di ba? Parang...
Yeah. Di lang yun. Ano pa nga ba? Kasi nga, there needs, yung sinasabi mo na genuine, it's very genuine to really state that there's something lacking with how our politicians talk, how our politicians address the issues. Parang lahat para bang nakaroot yan sa idolatry, nakaroot yan sa tinatawag nating yung parang will of the collective lang, hindi siya will of the people talaga. I mean, I have to say na meron naman siguro talagang leaders na effective magsalita, no? But I'm not going to say their names because it will make us partisan also. So, sinasabi ko lang na may mga senatoriables na maganda talaga magsalita. No? Para kasi the lower your position. Di ko man sinasabing lower ang senator sa president, pero the lower the position you're running for, the greater your opportunities to speak better. Like when you're the president, ang daming pressure. No? And that has to be remedied by all the campaign managers. Because otherwise, maraming hindi ma-address at saka lahat yan magiging batuhan ng putik. And that's what you want to avoid. Not because out of maintaining your capital, but rather because you want to
really
promote
change
a more modern viewpoint of campaigning. No? Kasi ngayon, yun nga yung the way the Kentucky candidate talked to a diverse set of people, right? The more you would realize na kailangan ganun din dito, no? So you have to be more qualitative than quantitative when you talk to people. Kasi ang tinitingnan lang natin survey. And that validates everything. No?
Ito nga yung sinasabi ko eh. Ito nga yung sinasabi ko sa surveys ko eh. Like, sure, like scientific sila, pero they really sucks.
Kasi nga hindi sila representative of the emotive emotive feelings of people, no? Siyempre pag scientific yan, it's very technical. I'm not saying na hindi siya factual. It is very, very technical. And if we are talking about kunwari how would BBM maintain his numbers, how would Lenny overtake that, it's going to be very technical. That kahaluan na naman ng mga yung ng mga kung ano-ano diba?
Mga stunt.
Oo.
I mean, to be honest, first stunts lang naman yung polls eh. Yung opinion polls. First stunts ng candidates lang yun eh. I mean, as far as I'm concerned
I believe in polling. It's just that it's not enough. There has to be a more compassionate, no? Namamana ako sa ating compassionate conversations with people. And that is what the Kentucky candidate did, di ba? 2010
Oo.
pa yun. Ano?
2020 yan.
Still,
Actually.
2020 ba yun?
Nakalagay.
Kailan siya tumakbo?
Well, 2019. 2020, like, seat ni McConnell.
Pero natalo siya sa primary pala.
Yes.
Pero yun
So,
nga, what you need to do is do that. Hindi naman nangyayari yun kasi ang daming sektor ng lipunan.
Oo.
Diba? Parang kasing you need to have a lot of people from different sides to really know what's going on and to really know what they want to be addressed. Kasi yung mga issues na yan, di ba? Paikot-ikot lang yan. Parang sinabi nga nung isang analyst nung isang beses 1985, corruption was already an issue. And in 2022, we are still talking about the same animal.
Kasi hindi natin mawala eh.
Hindi lang sa hindi mawala. There's no proper process on how to put these people in jail. We can, yun yung sinasabi ko, outrage. Nagagalit tayo. Alam naman natin mali eh. Alam naman natin nakakabwisit yun.
Well,
but
I guess may idea na rin tayo sa next topic.
Yun nga. So,
corruption.
Yeah,
so okay na, tapos na yun.
Huwag na muna yun kasi that's very complicated.
Sige. Sige.
Yun nga, so dapat ganyan yung ginagawa nila. Kasi kung sino man yung manalo, no? They need to really walk the talk on what they have promised. And hindi lang yung nadadala tayo sa election season dahil sa ayaw natin sa kabila, ayaw natin sa isang side, no?
At saka napakainit ng game.
Oo. Doon nangyayari yung whataboutism na dapat matapos kasi nothing will come out of it. Parang I hope that we're not going to be punished by what I'm gonna say. Pero parang nag-uututan lang tayo sa isang lugar na kulob. Tapos yung mga baho nila, yun yung papatay sa atin. Kasi
nalalanghap natin.
Yun yung sa whataboutism eh. Ito kasi yan, kasalanan nila yan. Tapos ito namang side na to, kasalanan lang. Ito rin naman, bakit yan? Hindi nyo yan binibring up. Asa na? What will happen? Mataas pa rin ang gasolina, mga kaibigan.
Hindi natin na pag-usapan yung problem
traffic
mismo.
Pa rin, mga kaibigan. Magbatuan man kayo ng baho dyan, no? Isa lang ibig sabihin yan. It's either...
Ayaw nyo mabago yung sistema.
Either binayaran kayo o talagang fit na kayo.
Ganyan kayo.
The B word.
Yan na tayo. Wala na. Okay lang yan. Okay lang. Nagpapakatotoo lang ito tayo. So, ayun. Tapos na rin.
The B word. Yeah, yun lang naman. So, kaya ako napapareact ng something is lacking. And it doesn't mean na it doesn't mean na hindi, yun, parang you are already measuring the intelligence of the politician. No. Hindi lang naman yun sa ganun eh. Diba? Ang daming attributes eh. So, iba na ngayon ng tao eh. There has to be more of the resonative figure. Hindi na tayo nabubuhay sa panahon ng 50s, 60s wherein everything was so technical. Diba? Everything was so about intelligence. Diba? Otherwise, hanggang ngayon, bumoboto tayo ng gano'n. Yung purely intelligent lang, purely ang dami lang na-achieve. Hindi na gano'n ang labanan. You have
Tapos,
to be
wala naman nagawa. Oops, joke lang.
Competent and resonative to people at the same time. I
At
think
saka may results ka din eh.
Hindi naman yun fortune, hindi naman siya parang a rarity. Hindi siya rarity. Kailangan lang ng taong maging ganun. Tsaka there should be less idolatry to politicians. You have to condemn what they're doing that is wrong. But you need to commend them if they're doing something right. Pero not to the point na pagtatanggol mo na lahat na para ba ikaw fan ni Nora Honor at ni Vilma Santos. Hindi sa ganong level You just need, pag sinabi nating commend, you are just pointing out what they have accomplished. Not to the point na parang inaalay mo na yung buhay mo dahil nakagawa lang ng tulay, anak naman ng tinapayan mo.
Ay, at yun na yung note nun. Okay na
I
yan.
think we can end the session here. I think I really enjoyed speaking my mind. So, if you are to
Welcome,
post it,
welcome naman lagi sa channel ko yan. So, be
yeah.
as truthful as you can be.
Yeah. Yun lang. So, hopefully